Hello and welcome to Creature Club. It's a podcast all about the monsters of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm your host, Daniel, and I'm joined by your co-host, Mikey. Mikey, how are you?
I am good. Thank you, Daniel. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm still on some time off.
Very good.
It's nice to not be working. And the weather hasn't been too hot anymore because it's not summer as much, which is good.
It's great. We can't handle the summer.
No, we can't.
I'm glad to be back to miserable and cloudy. I like that.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's so mild.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Fierce mild, if you will.
Yeah, I would.
Right, so we're back with a Creature Club. Finally, after all these years, after a 5-year hiatus, we have returned back in the Creature Club saddle. And we're just going to go straight into the final E of the book.
I thought you were about to say, like, the final monster. Like, we're just going to skip to zombie.
Yeah, we're just going to go to zombie and we're just going to finish it. You know, we're done. This is the rush the ending. You know?
Wizards have announced 6e. It's taken us so long, but we're just going to tap out.
Do you think with 6e they're going to do completely different?
The only dice you'll be allowed to use is the 6-sided dice.
Yes.
I'd be like, do you get it? Because it's 6e. And everyone's
6e.
Like, I thought the sort of 20-sided dice was sort of part of the, symbology of the game. They're like, nah, but it's 6e, so...
I like to think it's a lot of Monopoly rules are in there, where if you roll doubles, you get to go again.
you get to go again, and
Yeah.
if you do 3 times, you go to jail. Regardless of what's going on in the game, you just go to jail immediately.
6e is just Monopoly, I think. That's the new
6e is like Monopoly, but you make your character at the start.
Yes.
And then it doesn't impact the game at all.
My backstory says that I get Kimmage Crumlin, so I get that for free originally. Sorry, in Ireland, the first the 2 brown ones are Kimmage and Crumlin. Replace that with whatever Monopoly version you have. Replace that joke with whatever you got in your Monopoly.
Whatever you mad new people have in your Monopoly boards.
Yeah.
Imagine not having Crumlin. Don't understand.
Imagine that. Yeah. So, all right, we are playing. No, we are.
Yeah, we're playing.
We're not playing anything.
We've got an early release. Mikey, I hope you got your 6-sided dice, because that's all we
do.
use.
Yeah. So I'm gonna roll a dice right now.
Okay, you roll a dice first.
5.
5 is not good enough.
Right.
Lose.
Start again, hero.
Yeah, we have to start again. It's also way harder than 5th edition.
It is, yeah. I go through. I've gone to like 5 characters so far.
Yeah, I know.
My play testing, and it's still fun. You know,
that's it. That's the thing. It's still fun. That's what we really
fun.
want to reinforce.
It's just about the fun. I think
it's just we're still having great fun.
Dan, seriously, we're doing a Creature Club episode here, and we are talking about a creature called the Ettin. And what is the Ettin for the people at home?
The Ettin it appears to be a large humanoid figure with 2 heads, a slightly expanded kind of shoulders to accommodate 2 sets of necks, obviously. Mm-hmm. So they're a bit broader than a person. They're also much larger than a person. They are, in fact, classified as giants. Although they don't wear many clothes, they just wear like a simple loincloth because we're Command APG lads, and they've got some weapons, and that's it. And so they're just a big, giant, 2-headed person.
That's simple as that.
With tusks. Apologies, I should mention that because it'll come up.
Well, we'll go into if they are exactly giants or where they fall with the giants, if any of that stuff pops up there. But because Tim's not here, I had to do the little bit of real world history with this myself.
You did,
and turns out Ettin is just another word for a giant in like British English, really.
Oh, okay.
It's just a giant. I'm pretty sure it's just another word for it in kind of an old.
Okay, cool.
Language, and they're also, because I found this thing here about the bogle or the bogle, which is kind of a Northumbrian and Scots folklore creature that apparently that just causes annoyance and harm to mankind, like a lot of folklore creatures out there.
Like Twitter.
Like Twitter, exactly. Like anyone on Twitter. So there you go, guys. There's bogles and ettins all around the place. Yeah, so they are pretty much I think that term is kind of used for anything, really. It says here on the Wikipedia article I'm looking at, these include shellycoats, barguests, brags, and the headley cow, and even giants, which is the Ettin that I guess we're looking at.
Oh,
so it's kind of like a catch-all term, really.
Yeah.
And it's like bogle, but they're also known as Ettins, Yettins, or Jotun.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of words for it really there. So it's kind of another word for that.
So they're either giants or like big bothers, basically.
Yes. Basically.
Gotcha.
So I think with this one, they're like, oh, we need another giant name for a different name for a two-headed giant. So they just found Ettin and they decided to call it that. That's probably where it came from. I can't really find anything about a particular two-headed bogle or Ettin.
Specifically, like, the two-headedness of them.
Yeah, I can't really find anything like maybe a specific story about one, but maybe there is. Maybe there's one out there. But in my small bit of research, I could not find one myself. So, and that's really it. That's all I got.
That sounds. I believe you implicitly. Because I did none research. Because you said I'll do it because Tim's not here.
That's true. Yeah, it's like I got
good. Some. So it popped up in D&D in the first monster manual.
Okay.
It doesn't get a lot of information. Like a lot of sort of creatures like this that are kind of just intended as like your players are walking through a meadow and you roll on the random encounter table. It's like, oh, an Ettin, what does that do? And you have to look it up.
Yeah.
So it says, Ettins are giant-like creatures which dwell only in remote areas. Their lairs are always underground, for they prefer darkness and are nocturnal, which is kind of interesting. It says they attack with both arms, which I mean immediately that terrifies me. It's left head directing the left arm and the right hand directing the right. There's an interesting thing
crazy
here.
If it's the other way around. I would love it if it was the other way around.
That'll keep you guessing.
Yeah.
It gives both attacks have different numbers, which is kind of interesting. It's 2 to 16 points of damage from the left hand and 3 to 18 for the right hand, which is either 2d8 or 3d6. Then it says that one of the Ettin's head is always likely to be alert, so they are difficult to surprise, which makes sense. And then it finally gives a little bit of little bit sort of lore here, which is interesting. It says, description: it is evident from their appearance that Ettins are closely related to orcs. Their animal skin dress is typically moth-eaten and filthy. Ettins use spiked clubs and similar weapons. So there's a bit more of an idea of what they're like, but in particular, that idea that they are related to orcs is something that actually gets brought up in later editions too.
Right, that probably explains maybe why they have the tusks. Really?
Exactly.
And there's a little bit about that in the 5th edition book, so there we go.
Yeah.
We'll go into that later.
Then in 2nd edition, we get a bit more. They're big. It sort of mentions that apparently they're always right side dominant. The right head is dominant, but it also means their right arm and right leg are dominant, and like are a bit stronger as a result. But it also gives them a bit more. It says that they're normally solitary, but occasionally a very strong Ettin may gather a group of 1d4 Ettins together. So you have to roll that in the cave.
1d4 Ettins, and only one Ettin shows up. All right.
Okay. It says, this small band of Ettins stays together only as long as the leader remains alive and undefeated in battle. Any major defeat shatters the leader's hold over the band, and they each go their separate ways. So immediately, I love that. That's a great example of like the book just giving you a cool adventure hook. These Ettins are bothering people, and they're forming a tribe because of their strong leader. So like, beat the strong leader, but he's like a legendary Ettin. It says they collect treasure only because they know it can buy them the services of goblins or orcs, other foul creatures. And then they serve the Ettins by laying traps in their lairs and building little things and stuff like that.
I would never really picture Ettins as leadery kind of monsters, you know. I picture them as kind of like dumb and kind of like a brutish monster that you throw in just with a group of other things. You know, maybe have like hobgoblins or orcs be the one to
It does also say they're
them.
known to occasionally keep 1 to 2 cave bears in the area of their lairs. And then there's a final paragraph, which I actually think is kind of interesting, just because it's the kind of thing that doesn't get mentioned much. The sloppy caves of Ettins are a haven for parasites and vermin, and it isn't unusual for the Ettins themselves to be infected with various parasitic diseases. Adventurers rummaging through Ettin lairs for valuables will find the task disgusting, if not dangerous. So I like that. Not like just the sort of disgusting part, but the idea of like, you might actually catch something, if you're not careful, if you don't take precautions.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of interesting, is like, it just sort of adds a new challenge. You've beaten the Ettin, you're in their lair, but if you want to go looking for treasure, you better have gloves. Like,
yes. Hand sanitizer.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
As well.
So that's second edition. Third edition is, as is often the case, it's quite similar. A lot of the lore is the same. Although there's an interesting thing where the artwork between second and third edition is very different. In first and second edition, we kind of get like a person, basically a big two-headed person, is sort of the art, and they've got sticks.
Okay.
Whereas in third edition, we've got sort of almost more like they're kind of more hairier, and their skin is kind of darkened, but more by dirt than by tone. And also they're like, they've almost got like more like one of the heads looks more ape-like, and the other one looks a bit more maybe trollish or orcish.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And also, instead of having 2 clubs, they have one big club, which looks like it's an uprooted tree, which I like.
Yeah.
Because that's very cool.
What does the other hand do then during a fight?
Just sort of slaps you, I guess.
All right, there we go.
Just why not? Just hits you.
Yeah. Fourth edition.
Fourth edition. So fourth edition, it doesn't give a lot of lore at all, as is often the case with fourth edition. We get the Ettin Marauder, who is kind of your typical, I'm a big Ettin and I fight people. We also get something a little different. We get the Ettin Spirit Talker, which appears to be kind of a shamanistic spellcaster. And they have like sort of, and they seem to sort of, chant and curse their opponents and stuff like that, which is just pretty cool, especially because they're still a big person that could just hit you really hard. So yeah, and then finally we get all the way to 5th edition.
All the way to 5th edition, where we could possibly start reading the book now.
Yeah.
What we have in it, because there's a few little things here that this book gives you. Ettin. An Ettin is a foul, two-headed giant with the crude characteristics of an orc. It never bathes, if it can help it, and its thick skin is usually encrusted with a thick layer of dirt and grime beneath the stinking hides it wears. Its long, stringy hair hangs in an unkempt mess about its faces, and its breath reeks from mouths filled with crooked teeth and tusks. So a lot of just like, this thing's gross.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's saying a whole lot of the time, but let's keep going. Dual personality. The twin heads of an Ettin are 2 individuals trapped in the same brutish body. Each head has its own mind, personality, and name, and possesses unique preferences and quirks. Bound from birth, both minds only rarely experience privacy or solitude. This familiarity breeds contempt, and an Ettin bullies and argues with itself constantly. Its 2 heads each taking constant offense at the other's slights. When other creatures refer to an Ettin, they combine its doubles names to form a single compound name that applies to the creature as a whole. If an Ettin has one head named Hargle and the other name is Vargle, other creatures call the Ettin Hargle Vargle. That's fun. I like that. Another example of that actually is from our Creature Club special, where the homebrew special, we had the Blouts out, which was done by our friend Stephen, who sent that in, and it was, one head was Blout, the other one was out, and together they were Blouts out. So there we go. That's a fun little rule of thumb for Ettins.
Solitary lives. As much as an Ettin argues with itself, it is even less tolerant of other Ettins, since conversation between 2 Ettins almost always amounts to a shouting match between a crowd of 4 belligerent heads. Most Ettins are solitary creatures as a result, tolerating one another only to reproduce. An Ettin's twin heads are always the same gender, with a body to match. Females are the dominant gender among the Ettins, and they initiate the Ettin's mating ritual. After finding a suitable den, a female Ettin hunts and conquers a male, which cares for and feeds her during her 6-month pregnancy. Oh, it's faster than human. That's interesting, because they're so big. Once a child is born, the male Ettin is released from service. When the child is old enough to hunt for itself, the mother sends it away and abandons the den.
Kind of throwing the reproductive cycle into our 5th edition book.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's never come up before. It's not really. I don't think it really matters. It kind of feels almost unnecessary. I mean, I guess it's not, but like one of the things that I would point out is that by writing this, like, you know, the reality matter is that reproduction is not just biological; it's also a social thing. So like, it would be more interesting if there were perhaps, but basically, there's one thing that always happens here, and then you can't do anything else. Or, you know, if you do, you have to think of something else.
Yes.
Although I do think the sort of the notion that the female is the dominant gender among Ettins is interesting because it makes them similar to big cats. And so does the den part. Like RTE's The Den.
Or Big the Cat from
or
Sonic.
Big the Cat, The Den.
Right, okay. 2 heads are better than 1. When focused on a mutually beneficial purpose or united by a common threat, an Ettin can resolve its personality differences and dedicate itself fully to a task. An Ettin fights with a weapon in each hand, making twin attacks directed by its respective heads. When an Ettin sleeps, one of its heads remains ever alert, gaining its only moments of privacy and keeping 2 eyes open for any creature that disturbs its precious solitude. So I like that, where it's like they don't get along, but you know what? When push comes to shove, they'll work together, and they will work together very well because they are they're the same almost, kind of. They have the same body.
Just for reference, I looked it up, and I inadvertently looked up the animal with the longest gestation period, but it's the elephant, and it's
22
approximately
months. Okay.
22 months.
Right.
22 months, so over a year is how long it takes for a mommy elephant to make a baby elephant. I never knew that either. But considering that elephants are very big, but also one of the reasons development takes long is because elephants are actually very smart for animals, and that Ettins are smart enough to use a language, which we can kind of assume makes them similarly smart to like people. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what an int of 6 is in the world of D&D.
What's an elephant in D&D? Do we have an elephant stat block? Where's my elephant stat block?
Where's my elephant?
Elephant 5e. Hold on. Just hold on right there.
That.
5e. Not race. That's a loxodon. All right. So an elephant intelligence is 3, according to roll20.net.
Is 3. Okay.
Yes.
Which makes sense because it's an animal. And so, like, it's you know, and elephants are smart, but they are ultimately animals. So an Ettin has double the intelligence of an elephant. Now, it doesn't have double the size because it's probably smaller than an elephant. According to 5e, elephants are huge. So they're not as big as elephants, but they do have bigger brains than elephants.
But do they, like, you know, are they born and they are, you know, ready to go? Are they like Ettins, or are they like kids and they like?
Yeah, it's a good question. What sort of state do they start out as?
Male Ettin is released from servitude when the child is old enough to hunt for itself. Yeah, so that must mean it's, you know, it has to kind of grow up a little bit.
Yeah,
so,
at least to some extent, yeah.
Elephants, they're kind of ready to go once they're born, I'm pretty sure.
I think you're, I feel like you are right. They're like pretty much like, they're pretty rough and ready. They're still babies, but they're like, I'm a baby elephant though, you know, all things being equal, I'm still pretty big.
Baby elephants are very cute.
I mean, that's also true. I did get to look up pictures of baby elephants as part of learning how long it takes. I love when they follow their mums. It's so cute. Anyway.
The last
when are we going to get to elephants?
I can't wait for the elephants episode.
Orcish ties. In ancient dialects of Common, the word Ettin translates as ugly giant. Now that's out of order.
Oh, come on. It just means giants in the real world.
Legends tell of orcs that once stumbled upon a temple to Demogorgon, the magic of which transformed them into giant mockeries of the twin-headed prince of demons. Driven to near madness, these creatures scattered into the wilderness to become the first Ettins. Whatever the truth of the Ettins' origins, orcs treat them as distant cousins, and orc tribes often entice Ettins to serve as guards, scouts, and marauders. An Ettin isn't particularly loyal to its orc handlers, but orcs can win it over with the promise of food and loot. Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
So that's obviously kind of a reversal of what we saw in previous editions, where it said Ettins, like, they're not extraordinarily bright, but they're smart enough to know the value of treasure. at the very least as a tool to negotiate. So they will like barter with orcs. Because they don't care about treasure, but they know orcs do. But now we're being told that actually the orcs are the ones promising the Ettins treasure.
Yeah, so I guess that kind of it does mean they're kind of maybe not as smart. Really, they're kind of the dumb brute guys.
Yeah, I guess at least in 5th edition, and I suppose you can kind of interpret
edition.
them, differently to your own ends.
And
intelligence of 6 is pretty low. I mean, it's twice as smart as an elephant, but for like people it's kind of low, but you could still kind of you can do whatever.
I do like that one there pretty much just says we don't know where they came from. I guess like you can do whatever. We have a lot of conflicting ideas, so just come up with like there's a bunch of theories, but come up with one that you like, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
So it could be like something to do with giants, it could be something to do with the orcs, it could be something like that, maybe there's like a mystery to it, who knows.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a kind of interesting twist, instead of having them be a distinct species, that they are all formed from this Demogorgon curse.
Yeah.
That, like, basically, just like sometimes orcs, like, are born with 2 heads, and then they grow up to become Ettins. And it's just like, oh yeah, it's just because, like, the whole thing with the orcs is that they're, like, constantly infected with, like, because, like, their gods are, like, really impactful in their lives and stuff, and they're basically constantly impacted by the other planes.
Yeah, and like the orcs, they're kind of getting Groomsh talking in their heads.
Exactly,
I think that's kind of that's why orcs are orcs. I think
that's in our setting anyway. Is that basically
Yes.
Groomsh the demon is constantly being like, "Why don't you just fucking smash something, man? Wouldn't it feel great?" And
Yes, but I think that was kind of like that was kind of always the thing, really, something like that with orcs.
It could have been. I don't know. We haven't got there yet.
I did read that somewhere, but yeah, we'll go there with orcs at some point. We'll talk about them, and that is what it says in the book right there.
Yeah.
That is Ettin's. That is the Ettin introduction. Do you want to just jump into it? So let's go to the meat and potatoes. Play that funky music. So this is going to take us a second. So blink and you'll miss it. Or whatever blinking with your ears is. But Ettin, large giant, chaotic evil, armor class 12, natural armor, hit points 85, speed 40 feet. So it's large, so it's a bit faster. Strength 21, dex 8, constitution 17, intelligence 16, wisdom 10, charisma 8. That looks like a standard.
Did you say intelligence 16?
I did say that.
Does it say that in your book? Is what I
No.
meant. Okay.
I could have said intelligence 16, and I did not mean to. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I thought it was one of those things of like a misprint, because like you have books with misprints.
That's true, yeah. But I'd say if that would be the worst misprint of all.
That'd be weird. You'd probably pick up on it.
It is, as we said earlier on in the episode, its intelligence is 6. It's a double of an elephant. So
yeah, exactly. It's really easy to remember. Just remember an elephant's intelligence and double it. That's all you need to do.
Cool. So intelligence 6, wisdom 10, charisma 8. As I said, kind of a standard big burly stat block there.
Yeah.
So slow but strong. Can take a lot of hits, but not very smart. Kind of stuff like that. Skills: perception +4, senses dark vision 60 feet, passive perception 14, languages giant and orc, no common, and challenge rating 4 or 1,100 experience points.
Wow.
I know. What else has it got, Dan?
It has 2 heads.
I know that. I can see that in the picture.
Yeah, we've just covered that, man. The Ettin has advantage on wisdom perception checks and on saving throws against being blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, stunned, and knocked unconscious.
Very good. Makes sense.
But yeah, just sort of like if you were trying to like dazzle it or whatever, you'd have to dazzle it twice as much. Wakeful. When one of the Ettin's heads is asleep, the other is awake. So basically you cannot wait for this thing to fall asleep. I imagine that doesn't apply if you say use the sleep spell on it. I imagine that might just put both heads to sleep, but maybe perhaps naturally it sleeps basically in shifts.
I like to think because they don't like each other, I guess they're like, I'm sleeping in this time, you sleep in that time. I don't want to deal with you ever.
That's what I would think. Yeah.
So they would sleep in shifts, I'd say.
And then they have actions. You'll never believe this. They have a multi-attack.
Oh my gosh. Multi-attack?
Multi-attack.
Whoa.
The Ettin makes 2 attacks. One with its battle axe and one with its Morningstar, which are the 2 weapons it's holding in the piece of art above the stat block. Battle axe, melee weapon attack, +7 to hit. Reach 5 feet, 1 target. Hit, 2d8 +5 slashing damage, which is an average of 14 slashing damage.
Whoa.
Morningstar, melee weapon attack, +7 to hit. Reach 5 feet, 1 target. Hit, 2d8 +5 piercing damage, which is 14
this Morningstar
again.
Snake. Sorry.
What's a hind D doing here?
Morningstar. Isn't that some sort of medieval weapon? Yes, Snake. Well, this soldier uses both. I've got nothing else there, sorry.
Watch out for Wario's fart attack. He also attacks by farting.
That's canon. That is canon too. Metal Gear Solid.
So that's it. That's literally the block.
How's the block? How's the block?
As you point out, I love that when creatures don't have common, because it means that you can't talk to them unless you have specific training, which immediately means that they're more monstrous and alien. I like its traits. They're both very straightforward. Then they make sense. One of them means you can't surprise it easily. The other one means certain spells that might shut down fights against a single monster are kind of less effective, but they're not totally useless. It's just they're less likely to succeed, which is a good thing statistically, while not making those spells just like totally useless.
My favorite monsters are the ones where this is a monster and this is its thing, and this is a giant with 2 heads, and that's its thing, that it has 2 heads. That's it. So
yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and that's cool. That's what I like about it, where it has an ability with its 2 heads, and that's it.
Yeah,
cool.
I think the only thing I would say is that the fact that it has 2 different weapons, but they have the same damage dice and don't produce different results, I'd be a bit disappointed by that. I would say, I think we've kind of talked before, and I think you also talked about it on stream when you did that stream with Chris, where you talked about, I think the subject of giants in 5th edition came up, and there was sort of the feeling that like giants don't really feel big enough, which I think is true in a case like this where it's like it's a kind of a big thing and it runs up to you and it's faster than you, and that's immediately cool because that makes its size important, that it can basically outrun you. But then when it reaches you, it just kind of makes 2 weapon attacks, and like it may as well be like 4 goblins in a suit.
Yes, if you got hit by like a cloud giant with their mighty sword, then it's just like you take 20 damage, and I'm like, okay, I'm not crushed from that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm not like dust, or like my bones aren't broken, or like like my armor doesn't creak under the weight of like taking that blow or anything. Like I'm just like I don't even get pushed or knocked prone. It's like, no, you take 14 damage and then it's someone else's turn.
Or like tossed across the battlefield or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like the impact is disappointing. I think that's what I would look for. Is I think the idea that the 2-headed creature's major fighting style is to make 2 attacks with its 2 weapons makes sense, but the fact that it's like 2 attacks with 2 weapons that both just do about 14 damage, and it's like that's it, and you're fighting a level 4 party, so it's like they maybe have somewhere in the region of 20 to 30, maybe even 40 health at that stage. So like it's not terrible, and the hit bonus is quite good for that level. But I feel like because it's just going to make melee attacks and all it wants to do is run at you and hit you, that's great, because then the fighter just steps in front and then you can't get past them because you're just a dude.
Yeah.
And you always get hit because you've got an AC of 12.
Imagine if you gave him like 2 magic weapons. That'll be cool. That'll be like, maybe this is cliche me to say, but how about like a fire and an ice weapon?
I think certainly for some of them, I would say as a basic change to this stat block, I would just be like, the battle axe is like a big sweeping attack. So maybe it targets like multiple creatures. You know what I mean? So like you all get swung at with the battle axe, and then the Morning Star hits one dude, but then knocks them prone because it's like a big crushing blow.
Maybe a fefew more. Should there be something on the block about kind of getting them to like turn on each other? I guess something like that. Would there be like some sort of fun? How to describe this? Like
an infighting weakness.
Yeah. Using that kind of weakness, something maybe that can you make them infight, and then they can like maybe if they fail a certain thing, they start to like yell at each other, and it kind of they miss a turn or they have disadvantage on.
Oh, that could be kind of cool. Yeah, like if you could do that. I think really that's the sort of thing that you could entirely represent without using anything on the stat block. That's the kind of thing that creative players could come up with. I'm immediately reminded of The Hobbit, not the movies, obviously, but the book.
Hobbit 2.
The book, and one of the chapters in the book details how the hobbits and the hobbit and the dwarves get captured by trolls, and they start arguing over how they're going to cook them, and then they can't agree, and then the sun rises and they all turn to stone. But it's actually that Gandalf has been using magic to throw his voice, so he makes it sound like there's more trolls disagreeing with each other, and that's why they can't come to an agreement. And so something like that where the magic users, or even just a sufficiently talented rogue who can do a bit of ventriloquism, just pretends to be the other Ettin head and just makes them fight, maybe even before combat starts, as a way to drive them off or distract them. And I think that'd be great, but I don't know if it needs a stat block. I think that's the kind of thing where the players should come up with it and you go, oh yeah, okay, like why don't you make a deception roll or something else that's similar.
I don't know if we should play the music yet, but just before we do, I think that's if you just kind of before the fight almost like role play a bit of like, do a fun role play with the Ettin and have the two heads talking to each other and bickering and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can like plant the seed in your players' heads like, oh, they don't like each other, do they? And then like maybe that's a good weakness, and that'll be fun. That's a cool, that's a different way to defeat a monster, is to kind of use your brain. But even though like a few hits with the sword
of all my muscles, my brain is one of them.
Shall we just go into the third section, seeing as we're kind of doing that right now?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. Play the music.
Okay, so begunst with the I've rolled out the map, and I don't feel like drawing any terrain.
That's the Matrix room. Oh my god, it's the Creature Club Matrix room. Let's see what happens to the Ettin in the TM Creature Club.
We can't trademark it because we keep putting the word fucking Matrix in it. So
the Wachowskis would beat us up.
Yeah, they would. So the Ettin is a big sack of hit points that can hit reasonably well, but will also always get hit back. They have their one defensive buff is that they have advantage on a lot of different saving throws, which is nice, but they do also have not great saving throw bonuses, so they are relying on that advantage. For example, if you wanted to frighten an Ettin, they'd make a wisdom check against a lot of like cause fear or whatever. They'd make a wisdom check, and they don't have a wisdom modifier, so it would just be a d20 roll. Now they'd get an extra dice from their two heads, but it would still be 2 d20 rolls, which is like not very reliable. So even though they have that defensive bonus, I think a lot of the time they are going to, if they are hard targeted, if they are the only thing the party are fighting, then I think that they are probably just going to get locked out of some of their turns with control, and then the players will just kind of eventually deal with them.
We're going with the challenge rating of 4.
Yes.
4 level 4, and they have 85 hit points.
Yeah.
It'll go down. It'll be just like a straightforward fight of hitting with 2 multi-attack. Everyone gets their turns in, and I'd say it'd go pretty fast for a level 4 party. So.
Like maybe 1 or even 2 of the party members might go down depending on how the dice roll, but I don't think it would be very impactful. And I think by the time people start going down, that's like turn 3, which means all the party members have had 3 turns, which means this thing is probably either dead or very close to it. So yeah, I just think it's just, I think it's just kind of a fight with a monster, depending on how your players are equipped and what they have. It might be a fight where they just get to lock the Ettin out of loads of its turns, or it might just be one where the Ettin just slaps the fighter and the ranger, and the rogue and the wizard just get ignored for the fight, and that's exactly what they want. And then it just goes down. Now,
as a party of, let's say, a few orcs or something, or like a band of orcs, and they're like kill that party quick. They have magic loot on them, and then like, all right, and then just they all fight you together.
Yeah,
maybe that might be a bit. It'll just be a bit of extra. Once again, it's just this guy just really hits. It has the fun ability of having 2 heads, but all he does is hit when it comes to actual fighting. So it would be, it'd be pretty good to have in a fight for like an extra bit of muscle, but still not exactly wholly memorable in that kind of sense, I think.
Yes.
In just a fight sense, I think role playing and how you use it around the fight is fun, but just in the encounter, there's not a whole lot going on, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I would say that mechanically, if we wanted to steal some stuff, the 4th edition Ettin has a really straightforward, really cool ability that immediately makes them very impactful, which is basically what I would probably do if I wanted to make Ettins either more exciting, or I want to make like a legendary Ettin, like as we described previously in previous editions. It said occasionally very powerful Ettin can gather under Ettins under them. If we wanted to represent that kind of that sort of powerful, charismatic individual, so there is a really straightforward, it's reasonably straightforward, I suppose, ability in the 4th edition Ettin called Double Actions, which says an Ettin rolls initiative twice, gets 2 turns during a round, and has a full set of actions on each turn. Each set of action corresponds to a different head, and the Ettin's ability to take immediate reactions refreshes at the end of each of its turns. So I think that's such a cool and straightforward idea of just it's not that the creature gets an initiative, it's that each head gets an initiative. So without even changing anything else on this stat block, just giving it 2 turns is immediately so impactful. It's so different, and it's also very dangerous, because now it's getting 4 attacks. It's getting 1 attack per party member.
I have an idea that came to my head there as well, where when I was mentioning earlier on about maybe using some sort of mechanic to show that they don't like each other and they can do infighting. We did say you can probably do it outside of the block, but if you want to do inside the block, I was thinking about just right there, maybe there's some sort of ability that's almost kind of like a penalty kind of thing, where, like with sharpshooter and great weapon fighting, there's like take a minus to the attack and you get more damage kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe not exactly like that, but maybe there's like a absolute focus where like for a moment the 2 heads will like instead of doing multi-attacks, they'll both attack at the same time, and maybe they'll hit you in a very good, and they'll hit you in like at the same time. It'll be like good on attack and hit, but maybe there's like a penalty where you have to, like, if you roll like a crit or whatever, then they just skip a turn or something, and the heads just like yell at each other. It's like absolute focus, but if it's like anyone messes up, then like, you messed up, no, you messed up, kind of thing. So maybe you can do something small like that,
Yeah. I like that,
and that can go in with the double attack things too. Lots of different extra things to add for like a legendary Ettin.
In terms of the basic Ettin, maybe the only thing I would change, I don't know. It's hard to say. Whenever I start talking about changing monsters, I change everything, and then I'm like, hooray, it's fixed. And then it's just a new monster I've made.
The first thing I noticed was that its wisdom is kind of average, and its perception is +4, but I guess it has advantage on wisdom perception checks. So
exactly,
I guess that's probably it. But I just thought I'd mention that because it was the first thing I saw on the block when I was reading it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it does have a reasonably useful perception, certainly. But that does make sense because it does have the extra set of eyes looking out for things.
Yeah, but I guess it's not like particularly good at perception. It's just that it has two heads, and it's like, and I guess the advantage makes more sense than the
and
higher
it's
score.
trained, so it's getting the +2 twice, and that's it.
Yes.
Um,
which I like, because it's like, of course you get +2 twice because there's two heads.
Yeah,
like, there's two.
exactly,
Yeah.
One for each eye. Duh.
That's fun. All right. So what we normally do is that we might come up with an adventure with the Ettin. Any adventure ideas?
So I think I think we're going to just cheat because we've had an adventure presented to us, basically.
That's right. Yeah.
We could go off piste, but let's cover this one first because I think it's worth going into it in detail.
Absolutely.
As I said, and I'll quote it again. On rare occasions, a particularly strong Ettin may gather a small group of 1d4 Ettins together. That's right, 1 Ettins together. This small band of Ettins stays together only as long as the leader remains alive and undefeated in battle. Any major defeat shatters the leader's hold over the band, and they each go their separate ways. So immediately, I think we have a group of Ettins that are terrorizing a peaceful rural community, and we have a nice low-level party who are brought in to deal with the problem or feel compelled to assist in the problem. I think the sort of the obvious twist is that they are so low level that it isn't practical to take on all of the Ettins at once. I mean, I know it says D4, but why don't we be generous and say that the Ettin rolled a 4? And so it has quite a large tribe of Ettins, like 5 of them. And obviously the leader is, we can kind of assume, smarter, tougher, more cunning, maybe a more canny negotiator. So there's an amount of like kind of terrorization and raiding, but also sort of a, they might begin kind of walking into fields and just taking sheep in broad daylight, and kind of people know they're doing it, but they don't feel like, confident in being able to stop them. And then we can add to that all of the various Ettin accoutrements. So they have between 1 and 2 cave bears. Again, let's be generous and give them both cave bears.
1 and 2.
And then it says, of course, that they can hire either orcs or goblins, because they don't really have even though they might gain treasure by attacking creatures, they don't really care about treasure, but they understand that it's useful. And obviously we can say, 5e says the opposite, but let's say that maybe these big Ettins, these big strong Ettins, they're a little smarter than their normal cousins, and so they're like, what, actually I'm going to use this. So we're creating, like, somewhere up in the hills there's a tribe of Ettins, and they've got this big den. And at first they started just kind of snatching sheep from the outlying lands, but now they're getting more daring. They're starting to like take things from villages and demand treasure from and tribute from towns.
Yeah.
And they're using that tribute to bring in orcs and goblins, which they're using to reinforce their den and make it even more dangerous and even more deadly lair. And obviously then those orcs and goblins are now, themselves beginning to join in pillaging the countryside, either alongside Ettins or maybe even on their own. So you've got this multi-level problem, and it's all this massive snake body, and it all links to this head, this one legendary Ettin.
With 2 heads.
I should have seen that coming, but I didn't.
2 heads. Because I kind of like the idea of almost like the Ettins are still kind of Ettins, and they live like they use the money just because they know that the orcs and maybe goblins like it, but they don't really know how to like keep and like a force or something. So it's like they're almost like, here, take that, orcs, and then the orcs are just kind of maybe outside in their own kind of tents and stuff and encampments while they're just hanging out in like a cave or something that's right next to it, And
I also like the idea that even though these Ettins have been brought together, they still probably don't get on very well. So I imagine that in this den, they might even have kind of their own areas. In fact, you might even turn it into like a dungeon where each boss gets its own little base. They all have their own different predilections and preferences. Maybe you base it on the duality of their two heads and how they see things. So like, maybe one of them, like that Ettin spirit talker, is very spiritual, and maybe they're more like a cleric or something, and something that maybe they've got like the beginnings of a religion amongst the orcs and goblins, that kind of thing.
Maybe going with the two-headed demon or something like that. Kind of like maybe they believe it's like a two-headed demon, basically. Or kind of a messenger of it. Who's the two-headed demon? Is it the
Demogorgon? Is
Demogorgon?
Is two-headed? Yeah.
Yes.
So yes,
using that.
Yeah. That's like they are starting a Demogorgon cult amongst the orcs and goblins. The leaders sort of no nonsense and just interested in cultivating more power and personality under themselves. Maybe another one's more of a tinkerer, like they like the traps that the goblins make, and they like making like elaborate machines to catch, wary adventurers and farmers, and even like sheep and cows that go wandering too far. And that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that'd be like what I'd go for. You've got this central, danger, and you kind of, maybe it becomes reasonably clear reasonably quickly to the party. If you cut off the heads, the body will die. So they're like, okay, how do we take down? I don't know. Let's call him like the Man Splitter. Is the name of the legendary Ettin. It's like, how do we take them down? They've got these, they've got magic items. They're really big and powerful. They've got this like, unique fighting style or whatever. And that kind of becomes the question. And maybe you do it Crackdown style, where as you disintegrate parts of the network, as you take down the tribe of Ettins or the orcs and goblins around the Man Splitter, they lose power. Or you do it as more just a straightforward, like, you can't face these many threats. You're like putting out fires for the first half of the campaign, and then finally you're like, right, that's enough. Let's go and deal with this guy.
Yeah. And just making it kind of obvious that, like, they're kind of tough to beat altogether, and you might not be able to do that, but you just kind of figured out that if you go for the head, then they disintegrate, and that's the way to beat them. Cool stuff. Very cool. I like that. I like that idea. Just kind of like Red Hand of Doom, almost.
Yeah.
With Ettins. With Ettins instead.
Ettins.
Yeah. Even though Red Hand of Doom is like, there's a lot more.
There's a lot to it. Yeah.
A lot to it, and also a lot of stuff coming your way. Even though I'm just picturing a smaller force of orcs and Ettins and goblins, possibly.
Goblins, yeah, or even or whatever you like, kobolds.
Yeah. That's cool. Here's my here's a quick little meme idea. Mm-hmm. That's good. It's kind of put into that. That's a fun idea, but I'll probably never use it. How about a bard Ettin, where the two heads sing and harmonize together?
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
A bit of fun. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. So maybe, or like a kind of like a war chanter, I guess. It's kind of like they like it just kind of like does war cries or war songs, and it harmonizes almost. So I like that. Maybe if that's more thematic. Very good.
I like that a lot. That's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. That's very cool. We're getting close to the hour. Do you want to just call it there?
Yeah, we could. I was just going to say, yeah, like you could have like a war, like in a war sense, they could have like, instead of singing, they could have two different horns.
Oh yeah.
Maybe like one for different, like two different horns for different orders or something.
Yeah. Two drums.
Yeah.
Dum.
I think people can carry two drums though. Like.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm just thinking there.
I think that's everything. Yeah, I mean, I think I mostly like the take down the big Ettin. I think that's fun.
Yes. Big Ettin. What's a good idea for magic weapons or special weapons for before we finish up with it?
Well, you've got a lot of options. I guess the question is, are you like I would be thinking in the context of, and I think you'd probably be the same as me, Mikey. Like most of the time when you give the bad guy a magic weapon, the plan is that when the players beat them, they get it, because that's just good manners. So I would be thinking like, okay, well, they need to be big weapons because the Ettin is big, but they also need to translate into weapons that the party can use. So instead of a battle axe and a morning star, maybe they should have what would be a medium great axe and a medium maul. So like these are both two-handed weapons normally, but for a creature this size, they're one-handed.
Yeah.
So then you've got a big axe and a big sharp end stick. For the big sharpened stick, I like the idea that maybe just to return to that piece of artwork, maybe the maul is actually like an enchanted tree from a woad. That the Ettin cut down, and its magic still resides inside it. So maybe it has like wild magic effects, or maybe it causes like vines to sprout in the ground where it strikes. And then the axe is the axe that the Ettin used to cut it down. So maybe it's either an axe that's like supernaturally sharp, or maybe it's an axe that's some sort of like maybe it's like a Fey-Bane weapon where like it hates like Fey and magic, and so as a result it's really good at like cutting through enchanted trees, for example. And so that's how the Ettin ended up with these two weapons, and why they basically maybe what they are. And if you wanted to be even more interesting, the mole, the enchanted tree, could be like a living weapon with like a personality that like the Ettin just ignores because it's used to having two voices in its head anyway. But then when the players find it, it's like, I hate that axe. Like
because it has two heads, I think there might be a bit of fun. Is there two fun like helmet or like crown magic items almost that might be fun? Because if it has you might as well use the two heads if he has two heads.
Oh yeah.
Or at least giving him like like maybe making a weapon, or not a weapon, a piece of armor or a head piece, like one each. Maybe if it has like a crown, maybe it can be like a calls itself a king or something, or
I like that chief. Actually, that's cool.
And each of them do a different thing or something. Because all I'm thinking about like comprehend languages, or like a night vision goggles, or like that's the only
night vision
goggles. Night vision. No, you know the night vision goggles. The like that one in the items.
Yeah, no, I know that there is that, and there's the like tiara. I don't think it's called a tiara. I think it's called something else. I looked up tiara. Yeah, there's no tiara. The tiara of
circlet?
Power. The circlets are what they're called. Yeah, because that's the boy word for for a tiara.
That's a tiara, man. I want a tiara.
I said bloody tiara. Get over yourself. So yeah, the circlet of blasting. That's the one that lets you fire scorching rays.
Ooh, that's fun.
So that's very straightforward. I mean, it only lets you cast the spell once, but it also, as a result, is perfectly safe to give to this monster and then to give to your players. Let me see what else I can find. I thought there was I guess they're all helms. I thought there was something called the diadem of something, but obviously I have forgotten.
Yeah. Well, you can do some helms as well, but I guess your players might be able to wear them. They'll be very big on them. But you can just make them smaller. Yeah. You can just take like a gem out of it and make your own new helm or something.
That's true. You could do the Helm of Brilliance if you wanted to confuse your party.
Helm of Brilliance. What's that one?
It's the one that has a billion different effects. It's so
okay. I'm not getting into that. Red Helm.
That's
red
just the one.
Fun.
Yeah, that's the one that just makes your eyes glow red.
It's not even this fearsome steel helm makes your eyes glow red while you wear it. There's no like it gives advantage to intimidation.
It's a common magic item, so it doesn't do anything.
I love it. It's great.
Yeah, actually, you could always just have two circlets of blasting,
Yeah.
You could even have them be synchronized so they both fire at the same time. But unfortunately, I cannot find any more
That's right.
helmets that are like very exciting. Obviously, there's like the helm of teleportation, but that's just fucking busto. So
Maybe you can do like maybe he has some sort of like helm of like telekinesis, but it's like a light form of telekinesis that like some druid or shaman gave him in his army. Like, take this will help you fight, and then it just like lifts up a rock and is able to throw it at people or something, you know, or is able to like stop people in their place, like, you know, very very lightly or something. I actually also thought, what if he was a super guy, if he was a special one, and here's a fun idea. What if he had 4 arms? What if like each head
had
each head actually got 2 arms? You know, all was like Goro and had 4 arms.
That is a very cool idea.
I think you can just give them more weapons, or have them hold 2 like bigger weapons or something. So
2 bigger weapons.
That's basically the Creature Club, like, you know, the Creature Club cliche of like, what if more?
What if more?
What if the monster put more? So, but you can easily just give it more arms and more items if you want to make it stronger.
I think it's a pretty cool idea. I mean, a really straightforward thing you could do if you wanted to have your super guy have extra arms is you could have one arm hold a shield. Which would like give you a nice AC boost, and like explain why the arm doesn't get an extra attack. And you could even, if you really wanted, add like a shield bash to the multi-attack.
Yeah.
And then maybe the last arm is like just in charge of throwing javelins. And making ranged attacks, just to give this enemy like a more rounded ability set, you know.
That is fun, yeah.
So like, obviously it doesn't sound super exciting, but just because like, you know, the mechanical reality of it is like, if you make a big boss monster, but his thing is he still sort of walks around hitting people with sticks, it's like, it's fine, but you can do more. Like, you could just give it like, you can also, like, you can throw javelins, or maybe like he's got like a man catcher, like a big hook, and he grabs you with it and pulls you towards him.
Yeah. So like one of them is like the attacker with like 2 weapons, and the other one is like has a shield and a hook that brings you over. You know, that'd
be cool.
Kind of like the sword and shield or something like that.
And then maybe you could also, I like that hook idea more, because then you could do some fun stuff like have them use the hook to do other stuff in battle, like swing from rock formations as an extra mobility option, or if they were fighting the party in a forest, they could even use the hook to like pull down a tree on top of a player.
That's fun. That's lots of different things you can do with that. You see, at first I was picturing, what if 4 heads? And then that's a lot of heads.
Mikey, everyone has a forehead.
Oh my gosh, no, he got me, folks. All right, okay. I'm done, Creature Club. You can do it yourself now.
No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
That's absolutely fair. I was expecting that to happen. The joke is worth it, though.
It was always a matter of when, not if.
But yeah, you can do lots with that with the 4 arms. That's cool. That's very cool. And yes, everyone has 4 arms. I know that. All right.
I wasn't going to say anything. Just to keep you on your toes, I wasn't going to say anything. I don't think I have anything else to say. I like that idea of the legendary Ettin having extra arms. That's very cool. I like the hook weapon. I like the idea of the champion, and that being the fight. Actually that could be cool. Maybe like the campaign starts with you guys challenging the Ettin, but because they're like this big braggadocious leader, they're like, yeah, fine, I'll fight you in an arena of my making. So then, you know, they're like, my arena will be finished in a week, and you have until then to prepare. And so they build this big arena in the woods. They get all the orcs and goblins to do it. But in reality, like, you know, they're still a group of raiders, and they're still like causing trouble in the local area. Yeah. And maybe you've got to like balance like getting ready and training with like helping the people who you're here to protect.
And of course it'll just be probably just a gauntlet before like you fight him or something. Like, yeah, who's my best man? All right, you and you. I'll throw a bunch of goblins in for the 3rd round, and then bam, you fight me then. You know, stuff like that. And you know, a lot of cheating going on, but no one can stop him because he's in charge. A lot of fun stuff you can do with that. That's a fun one. That's cool. Yeah, do you want to finish it up there? I think we're at a good time there. Yeah, that's good. Ettin, we have a few cool ideas with that one there. Two-headed giant, but simple stuff, but I think you can do a lot of fun stuff with it if you just kind of use your head or use your two heads. It gets you and your mate and think of some ideas. Because, you know, Creature Club, we're actually just a three-headed Ettin. It's That's three true. Of us. We're all in one body.
You might be wondering, how does some of us not show up if that's true? And the answer is, shut your goddamn mouth.
Shut your goddamn mouth, alright? Stop asking questions, alright? Yeah, perfect. So, let's finish it up there. Thank you so much for listening to Creature Club, guys. That's been another episode of that one.
Be sure to subscribe on whatever podcasting application you use. And if that application lets you leave reviews or even just give a little kind of thumbs up or thumbs down, these things, those things are great. I think especially on Apple Podcasts, it's not called iTunes anymore. That really does actually help with how you get moved around the ratings and how you get recommended to people. Obviously with other applications, I don't know. But if you have enjoyed this and you want to tell us either how much you've enjoyed it or how wrong we are about something, which is good and normal, you can find us on Twitter at Creature Club Pod, or you can go to our website, www.creatureclubpodcast.com, and leave a comment under the episode. Or you can email us if it's a big complaint. We get those all the time from the BBC. That's creatureclubpodcast@gmail.com. You might be wondering, why the BBC? And we don't know either. We haven't found out yet. And also, if you do have that email address on file, well done. You can also send us your homebrew submissions, either your homebrew monsters, items, spells, classes, anything you like, because we like to do collections. We've done 2 collection episodes so far. They're both really good fun. We referenced the second
Louts out from the second. Actually, I don't remember which one it was.
I feel like it was the second, but I'm utterly frozen in lack of knowledge. I'm just gonna look it up, and we'll just edit out the really long pause.
We got a few. I don't know what we do with reading them out and stuff, but we did get a few nice emails from a lot of folks recently. We haven't read them out or anything about kind of mentioning them and stuff, because I think we normally do that when all 3 of us are here.
Yeah.
We've gotten them all, and they've all been fantastic. They're all wonderful. Thank you so much for sending in stuff like that, guys.
They are legitimately really nice, and it's very touching. But yeah, I think it's nice when we do it all together, because I think it just lifts us all up a bit, to be honest.
Absolutely. And also, just kind of like a lot of people, a lot of you folks, you send in an email and you kind of like, here's what I do, here's what I'm doing, here's my game, and it's like, that's cool.
It's actually legitimately
are also
really
different
cool.
And fun.
Absolutely, especially when you're like, here's what I was doing, and here's maybe how your podcast gave me an idea, because it's really cool to hear when that helps. It was the first homebrew special. Was the Blout's Lout, who is a magically inclined Ettin, produced by our patron saint of the podcast, Stephen Brady, who's also on Twitter, but he is also a professional man, so do be polite. You can make fun of us all you like, don't worry about it. We've got nothing going on, but we can't say that for our listeners. That's not fair. But yes, and that is everything. That's literally everything.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. Next episode will be something else. But we are finished E.
We are finished E officially. And if you're wondering, quite reasonably, but guys, you didn't cover the elephant. The elephant's under pachyderm.
It's like you never even went through the monster manual.
Honestly, guys,
Is this your first time going through the monster manual?
It must be their first. But that's what we're here for, We're here to help you through the first time and the second time and every other time.
Yeah. So see you guys at Pachyderm.
That's it. Yep. Let's get a sing-song going. It's a long way back to Pachyderm.
Like, the classic song where everyone knows the lyrics.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely, yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening. I have been Mikey,
and I've been Dan.
Stay cool.